May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, preserving the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths crossed his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we've got a guest. We are honored with having Natalie Goldberg as a guest, and I think you're going to enjoy hearing what Natalie has to say. And a little bit of what I have to say. Natalie, as I'm sure you know, is a writer and a writing teacher. And we're going to talk some about her books. She's also a Zen Buddhist practitioner, and she's been painting recently. So, and you can Google her. She's got lots of books. Go to just write Natalie Gold. I think it's nataliegoldberg.com. Or just write Natalie Goldberg books. And you'll see a whole slew of them there. Yeah, very impressive. So we'll give Natalie a call just as soon as we've had our pause to meditate.
Hi, David.
Ha, Natalie. How you doing?
I'm really good, David. If you asked me 6 months ago, I was not good. But I'm up in Port Townsend. I don't have any attachments up here, and I'm learning to just hang out.
Wow.
I've stopped being ambitious. I'm practicing. I'm sitting, and I'm just kind of finally enjoying my life.
Oh, that's great. We love Port Townsend. It's
a great place, isn't it?
Right. A lot of old Zennies there.
Oh, really? I have only met Christopher something or other. Is the only old Zenny I met.
I did a book. I did about 3 book signings there. And
oh, really?
Yeah, years ago. And one of them, there were...
At the bookstore, David?
Yeah, what's it called? The Phoenix?
No, well, now it's called, I don't remember the name, but it's not called the Phoenix. Oh, the used bookstore. No, you probably did it in the new bookstore. It's not here anymore. I don't know.
There was, I remember one in which I counted 7 former Shunryu Suzuki students.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I think they're hidden.
Well, I can tell you, Silas Hoadley lives there, who was second only to Richard Baker at Zen Center.
Really?
Nils Holm lived there. He died. So many. But
really? Wow.
Yeah. So what are you up to these days? Aside from being there, you still have your home in Santa Fe.
I still have my home in Santa Fe, and it's sort of a block away from Upaya Zen Center.
Right.
But Upaya is closed. It's been closed for the last year and a half, so I can't ever go there.
Oh.
So I'm sort of Zen floating.
Oh,
I sit every day.
It should open up before too long. don't you think? I mean, things.
No, it's going to stay closed. I think it's going to stay closed for. I'm in touch with Jones, so I think it's going to stay closed for 2021 for sure through there, and probably 2022.
The whole thing?
You know, the COVID is getting, well, maybe. COVID is not so great, especially in New Mexico. Suddenly it's gotten really bad.
Oh.
So, yeah. I don't know what you hear about it over there, but it's gotten really bad in New Mexico.
Oh, I didn't know.
And, yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty, they've done a pretty good job here.
Really?
Yeah, most people here have either been vaccinated or have had it. It's really getting sort of loose. They're gonna start letting tourists in before too long, I think.
Oh, that's good, I guess.
Oh, well,
so,
yeah.
You're not a tourist.
Unless you want people to starve to death.
Yeah. David, you're not a tourist now? Are you? What are you now?
Well, we're residents.
Oh, you're residents. Okay.
Yeah. People say expats for Americans who live outside their country.
Are there a lot of Americans there?
Thousands. I don't know how many.
Oh, really? Wow.
There's there's a very large expat community. Most of our friends we have some American friends, some very good American friends, more Australian, British, Dutch, German, few Japanese, but mainly Indonesians.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long have you been there, David?
8 years.
8 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Have you been back during that time?
No.
Wow.
Katrinka goes back every year. Yeah.
Do you miss it, David?
Oh, I miss some people. But they can come here, say hi. Yeah, please come visit. So
okay.
how long do you...
I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, how long do you plan to stay in Port Townsend?
Well, I rented a house for a year with the idea that I could come back and forth because the winter here is kind of hard. It's very dark and kind of bitter cold. So I had a good deal, and it's a friend owns the house. So I just rented it for a year, which is kind of amazing.
Well, winter in Santa Fe, we lived there. Elin and I lived there for 1 year, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that.
July 92 to July 93. And the winter was marvelous. That was the second snowiest winter in the century.
Oh, yeah, we need snow. But I love winter in New Mexico. Boy, do we need it. Things are so dry, David.
Oh, it's really dry. Well, we had snow in our yard for 5 months that year.
Wow. Oh, you were lucky.
Yeah.
You were really lucky.
Yeah, it was great. So,
David, are you still working on all the archives?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you, David, I never cared very much about Suzuki Roshi. I mean, I liked his books and stuff, but, I was in love with Katagiri. But that last book that they sent me, with all his quotes and stuff.
Zen is right now.
Yeah. I understood why people loved him. I mean, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. More than anything, it gave me a feeling for it.
Oh, that's something. Did you just get the one book, Zen is Right Now?
They sent me both books.
Yeah, Zen is right here, the set. Yeah.
Yeah, but they sent me the set. I have to admit the first one is, I think, a lot better.
Uh-huh.
The second one is good, but the first one is very good. Is very, very good.
And
I've been telling people about it. You're not aware that the first one is really, really good?
Oh, that's the first time I've heard that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not everybody's as truthful as I am.
Well, people have different opinions.
I don't think the second one is good. Yeah, the second one is good, but boy, oh boy, that first one knocked my socks off.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Well, maybe people said some things like that, and I just don't remember. That's very interesting. Well, that means something. Yeah, Zen is right here. I put together immediately after Crooked Cucumber. So it was published by Broadway, part of Random House. But I didn't do anything to promote it, and I didn't help them much because I was having a love affair and just couldn't think of anything else. And so it went out of print pretty quick, and then Shambhala picked it up in 2007. Originally, it was called Just Shine One Corner of the World.
You know what, David? I've heard of it, that title, but I never thought of getting it. And really, I wouldn't have bought this, but they sent them to me. Did you tell them to send it to me?
And I had it sent to you.
Oh, David, thank you. And, it sat on my kitchen table for, I think, weeks. And it looked so unappealing because I don't usually like quotes.
Yeah.
But then I said, oh, come on, Nat. If David did it, it's going to be good. And I opened it, and you totally sucked me in immediately.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm glad you're telling me about it, reminding me, because I'm doing a retreat in about 2 weeks, and I think I'll use the book.
Well, the thing, it makes sense that the first one would be better because we went over everything. Michael Katz and me, who's my agent, and now my retired agent, but also my co-conspirator. So there was a tremendous amount more material in 2018-19 when I put together the second one. But I would say maybe 30% more or something. So there was, we had more to, maybe we got all the low-hanging fruit for the first one.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I felt like.
Yeah.
But the best stuff. But it's good. The second one is good.
Yeah. Well, it's very kind of you. So when I was talking to Natalie, I couldn't remember anything anybody had said comparing the books. But then I did remember. This is from the first review it got. Zen is right now more teaching stories and anecdotes of Shinya Suzuki. And they title it Profound Teachings on Being Present. This is from Spirituality and Practice, Resources for Spiritual Journeys. Anyway, the second paragraph, first paragraph just explains, the book is just published and stuff. Second paragraph says, an earlier collection of similar short teachings to Shine One Corner of the World appeared in 2001. We liked it so much that we gave it one of our annual book awards that year. That collection has now been republished by Shambhala Publications under the title Zen is Right Here. Zen is Right Now is perhaps even better. So there's a different opinion. Goodness. Well, So what are you working on now?
Well, David, I've written 15 books.
Yeah.
And my last book was the three simple lines about haiku and Japan and, everything. And, I've kind of, when COVID came, everything went dead. I've had incredible writing mojo and teaching, and it just went dead for me. And it was very scary. I always had the next book that I wanted to write. And I literally wrote one book. When it was finished, the next day I moved over and started another book. But all of a sudden it was empty. It was empty. And it was very, very scary for me. And my writing friends said, well, welcome, Natalie. Now you know how the rest of us feel. So I haven't realized that I just been, lit, I think, by Katagiri all those years ago. And I just kept going. I was trying to save all sentient beings. And so I didn't have anything to write for like a year. I kept doing writing practice. I kept sitting, but I felt very empty. Because, when you're writing a book, you're pregnant. You're full of something, hopefully not full of shit. And, so but now that I've been alone here for about 9 weeks in Port Townsend, I have an idea for 2 books. But, David, I must say I'm going to be 74, and I'm in good health, which I'm happy about, but I don't have the kind of mojo I had. It takes tremendous energy and, just drive to finish a book, to bring it to completion.
Right.
And I don't have any dream about it anymore. I don't know what I thought it was going to do for me, writing all these books. But it didn't do much except that I had to write another book. So I don't have that dream anymore. So I'm sort of slowly playing around with 2 books that I might be interested in. But I definitely don't have the mojo, and I've discovered doing nothing and being, which I've always wanted to do, but was never capable of it.
Oh.
And I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah.
I'm painting a lot. I don't know if you know I paint.
Well, yeah, I just saw when you set out. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So I've been painting a lot here. I've got really inspired to paint, and I'm just hanging out. I'm reading a lot of books. I watched Dave Chappelle's last show last night on Netflix. I don't know if you even know about it.
Oh, no, I don't know about that show, but we'll watch it because I love Dave Chappelle. He's got a lot of nerve.
It's called and he got a lot. Whoa, did he get a lot of kickback on it?
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But I thought it was brilliant and scary. It's called The Close, CLOSE, and it's on Netflix.
Yeah, good. We will definitely watch it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Huh.
Sure.
What was the last book?
It's called 3 Simple Lines. And the subtitle is A Writer's Pilgrimage to the Heart and Homeland of Haiku. I went back to Japan many times and really wanted to study the way of haiku. And, always in it is Katagiri Roshi. So I feel really good about that book. And I keep thinking, okay, Nat, is that going to be your last book? And it just doesn't feel quite like it is. So,
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, you can't say this is going to be my last book because you might change your mind on any book.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll be around enough.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. So you got to get your mojo working.
David.
Oh, I want to say here that right after Natalie and I were through talking, I got a copy of Three Simple Lines. Yeah, it's bad. I felt stupid. I mean, I felt sort of bad because I've been spending so much time on all the stuff I do. I haven't been reading enough, So I got that, and it's very easy to read. It's really wonderful. I highly recommend it.
What are you doing now, David?
I just released a record album yesterday of songs. Not a record. It's digital. It's online.
Oh.
No, it's called Bali Yuga, BALIYUGA, Bali Yuga, On the Way to Venus. And
what a great title.
Bali Yuga is the name of our band, and On the Way to Venus is the first song. I had to use my name because I have other music projects that aren't with them, but I wanted to use the band name. And I'm working on some other albums with them. And so every one of them will have Bali Yuga at the first name.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And I'm working on a book called Tassajara Stories. And I've been working on it.
Are you?
Yeah.
David, are you asking people for stories, or is it all your story?
Oh, I've been asking people for stories for 25 years. I've got so many. and it's always open for more, and I do receive new ones. I'm in contact with, hundreds and hundreds of people who pass through, and I'm always eager to get anybody who if I meet somebody that says I was there one day back in '69, I say, do you remember anything? There's just this vast oral written history. So I got way more material than I need. I've been reading it in podcasts for the last year, once a week. I'm going to do one today. We just completed the second edition of Crooked Cucumber because a lot has been learned.
There's a second edition?
Yeah. It's not published as a book. It's an audiobook. And it's just audiobook for Crooked Cucumber, but it's really a second edition. So we have all the changes that were made on Cuke.com, Cuke.com/CC21, and supplemental material, stuff that was kept out, maps, index. That was the big mistake in the book, not to have an index. But a lot has been learned, and some of the stories were wrong, are off. So I changed as little as possible. But and in working with the Japanese translation, learned a bunch of things. Corrected some names and added some names like that. Essentially the same.
David, can you send me any of it? Can I listen to it on iPod or anything?
Yeah, there was. It's already on Amazon and everything, on Audible. But there was a bad mistake, and we're waiting for that. That should be fixed any day. I wanted them to pause it and not for it not to be available, but they said, well, it doesn't matter. People can just, re-download it or. So it's already there, and it just says Crooked Cucumber Audible. It's through Shambhala. And I'm going to start when Katrinka goes to America in December. She'll be gone 6 weeks. I'm going to start recording Thank You and Okay.
Oh, great. Great. I love that book.
You've been very kind about that book. Yeah, about both of them. Yeah.
Good. Well, I have people read them. I assign them, and they've loved them.
Well, I appreciate that very much. So anyway,
I bet you do.
I'm very busy. I can't keep up with it all. There's other stuff, but that's enough there. So you're working on 2 books. Your last book was 3 Simple Lines. So, hey,
yeah.
What was your book before that?
My book before that was a book called Let the Whole Thundering World Come Home.
Right.
I didn't pick that title. Shambhala did. But it's a line from the book, and it's about me having cancer, and my girlfriend, my Chinese girlfriend, at the same time had cancer.
Oh, goodness.
So it's about the 2 of us having cancer. I think it's a really good book. I'm very proud of it. And then the book before that, you want to hear that?
Yeah.
The book
I
before
like this.
that.
Yeah.
The book before that is called The Great Spring. And it was essays, a lot of essays that I had written, a lot of essays about Dharma, me in the Dharma, me going to a monastery in Japan, me, it was just a lot of me, with Katagiri building the Zen Center in New Albany, Iowa. So there were, it's an essay book. It's called The Great Spring. I'm very proud of that book. I like that book a lot.
I like what you've written about Katagiri, and I like what you've written about your father. That was great. That was so funny.
Oh, thank you. In The Great Failure?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Your father, that was so funny. I loved it. I loved it when you taught him Zazen.
Yeah, I know. People get really a kick out of that.
Can you remind us?
When it was actually happening, I was miserable. But when I wrote about it, I realized it was great.
That's right. So tell it.
Oh, you want me to tell it?
Yeah.
Okay, my parents, I adored my father, even though he was a pain in the neck. My father owned a bar in a tavern. It was called a tavern. And he was out visiting me after he retired in New Mexico with my mother. And, sometimes you just don't know what to do with them. And it was in Santa Fe. And my father suddenly, out of the blue, my father never went to school. I mean, I don't think he even graduated high school. And all out of the blue, he said, "Hey, Nat, show us, what is Zazen?" And he didn't say Zazen. What is meditation anyway? And I had this brilliant idea. I thought I would just do it with them rather than talk about it. So I said, "Hey, you want to try?" And they said, "Sure, let's do that." Because, we don't know what to do with each other. They're visiting and we're from 2 different planets. So we sat outside on the porch and I ran in and got a bell to ring. And I said, "Okay, when the bell rings 3 times, we're just going to sit for 10 minutes and just watch your breath. And when your mind wanders, come back to your breath." So I rang the bell, and I couldn't believe it. I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm doing meditation with my parents. So 10 minutes goes by and I ring the bell again. And I said, "So how was that?" And they didn't say anything. And I said, "Well, Dad, how was it?" He said, "I didn't have a single thought." I said, "You didn't have any thoughts?" He said, "Nope, not a one." I said, "Oh." And I said, "Well, Mom, how was it?" She said, "Oh, I worried the whole time. Your friend must think I'm terrible. I didn't mean that your novel was awful. I don't know what I was thinking. You have a lovely novel." And so my father said, "Oh, no," my mother said, "Let's do it again and I'll do it right." And I thought, there's no right or wrong, but I didn't say anything. And I rang the bell again. And we're sitting about 8 minutes. And my father grabs the stick and starts hitting the bell and singing, Hello, Dolly. Well, hello, Dolly. It's good to have you home at last. And he went on. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was the only one that continued to look straight ahead. And they just acted out. And I think I thought, I could hear Buddha say, Natalie, there are 9 types of people, and your father is the 10th type, out of this world. It was just, now understand, when it was happening, I was miserable. It was only afterwards in writing it, and probably I wrote it, probably 6 years later, that I realized what a great story it is. But I didn't appreciate it at the time. And when my father said I didn't have a single thought, I was like, we're all tortured by thoughts, but not my father.
That was so great. Yeah, I've got to catch up on your books. I've read a bunch of them in the past. I've been too busy recently. I'm going to catch up now, talking to you.
That one is from The Great Failure.
Oh, yeah.
That came out in 2004.
Right,
yeah.
The Great Failure. It's just the recent ones I haven't caught up with. I think I'll start with 3 Simple Lines.
Oh, I love that. I think I'm very proud of it. I think it's a really good book.
Yeah.
And of course, Katagiri is in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm very proud of that book.
Yeah. Yeah, you've done quite a job through the years. All right. Hey, what do you have any other books you want to mention? Stories about books?
Let's see.
Because you're a good storyteller.
No, just that I've really worked hard. I've worked hard for a long time. I think I was very deeply inspired by Katagiri, and I believed we could save all sentient beings. And I went out to try to do it. So I was teaching a lot too. I taught, and that was my life, teaching and writing books. Practicing, teaching, and writing books. And really, through writing, I passed on the Dharma to a lot of people that would never have found the Dharma on their own.
So I remember your first book, Writing Down the Bones, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just 35 years now. It's been out 35 years.
Yeah. I bought that in the Green Gulch bookstore.
I'm still really good friends with Wendy Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she's one of my best friends. As a matter of fact, we talked this morning.
How did you get involved with Buddhism, interested in Buddhism? I mean, what's your way-seeking mind story? When did you first have an inkling of that you might call spiritual seeking or wanting to know more or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I've written about it in Long Quiet Highway, but I'll be glad to tell you.
I liked Long Quiet Highway.
I was an intellectual. Yeah. And I studied at St. John's at the Great Book School. And, I had no idea about spirituality or anything like that. And I was teaching 6th grade. The kids were out of control in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And right in the middle of them running around, I had a deep awakening experience. And I looked out the window and I felt my heart open. And I saw myself wandering in empty fields. And I didn't know what happened to me, and it scared me. And for night after night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was completely empty. And I would just sit there with an empty mind and not sleep. And nobody I knew, because they were all more like I had been, didn't know what I was talking about, and it scared them. So finally, someone said to me, go up to Lama Foundation. Do you know Lama Foundation, where Be Here Now was created?
Yeah.
And so I drove up there on a Sunday on an open house, and I was walking up the path, and I ran into this woman, really tall woman in a white flowing dress, barefoot, and it was Asha von Briesen, who had started the place. And she looked down at me and said, what are you doing here? And I looked up at her and I said, I was so naive, David. I said, I found the Garden of Eden in my heart.
That's nice.
She said, you need to find a practice to learn to water it. And I said, you know what I'm talking about? She said, yes, follow the path and go have lunch. So I went, and they invited me to stay, and I drove back home. I quit my job. And to this day, I don't know what I said to the principal, but I was so articulate. He said, you can have a job with me anytime you want. And I remember his name was Mr. Jones. I just remember that. And I drove. I was so straight. I had a little Volkswagen Bug. You know, I had khaki clothes and stuff. And I drove up to Lama Foundation, and I lived in a teepee on the side of Lama Mountain for 3 months. And the first teacher I met was Baba Haridas.
Oh.
You know, he didn't speak for years, so he became my first teacher.
Oh.
But in the mornings, we'd go into this little, they didn't call it a zendo, a meditation space, anyone who wanted to, at like 7 a.m. And when I went in the first time and I sat, I went, bingo, this is it. This is what I want. I want to know my own mind. And it just felt, you know, it was immediate. I knew this is it. And so then, you know, I was first with Trungpa Rinpoche, and I took vows with him. And then I got married and moved to Minnesota. And I started studying with Katagiri Roshi, and that was it. Katagiri and I were a really good fit.
Oh.
And I was lucky because it was so cold that no one was, you know, there weren't that many people there because nobody came from other places.
Yeah.
And I lived 6 blocks away. And for 12 years, I practiced with Katagiri. Very hard Zen. And now I realize how, you know, it was so strict. It was like military school. But it really has held me in good stead. I really appreciate it.
Oh, wow. And
yeah.
How did you come to start studying with Chogyam Trungpa?
Oh, he was in Boulder and I was living in Taos. You know, after being at Lama Foundation, I lived in Taos and taught at the Donna Hosley School. It was the hippie school, meaning spring will come again in Navajo. And actually, Asha von Briesen, who was the head of Lama, was the head of Donna Hosley. And one year, the kindergarten teacher was Pema Chodron.
Is that right?
And I was the English teacher. Yeah, it was a great place. And Trungpa would come. She brought everybody to the school. And so I was sitting all the time, and I just I read Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. And Boulder was nearby, and I went and studied with Allen Ginsberg. He taught at the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics. And I went and studied with him. And then I just started studying with Trungpa, and I moved up to Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left and went and moved to Minnesota.
So how did you find studying with Trungpa?
He was very brilliant. He scared me, and he was crazy. It was crazy. There were no boundaries. It just finally I wasn't comfortable enough.
Yeah.
There in that world, but he was brilliant, and I learned a lot.
Yeah. I knew him somewhat, and I went there and visited. I'd be there weeks at a time. He wanted me to stay and teach meditation, but yeah, it was just too much.
And he died at, 46, I think, of, liver cirrhosis. He was drinking all the time. I think he was in so much pain, and physically and emotionally. Mm. And he was sleeping with a lot of students, and I felt like I was going to be one of them, and I didn't want to do that, but, it felt like you couldn't say no.
Yeah, you could. But I know what you mean. I mean, it was pretty extreme. The whole trip was so extreme.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was very extreme. Yeah, Katagiri, it's not like Katagiri wasn't extreme, but it was an extreme that I could handle.
Right.
That I could stay in.
Right.
Because it was definitely extreme. I mean, we practiced like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And so, do you remember when you first met Katagiri?
Oh, yeah. Well, I went a few times, and just because it was Zen and because it was sitting and practice, I just went. But my true meeting with him, I remember that. And I think I wrote that at the beginning of Wild Mind, my second book, but I'll tell it to you. There was a wedding 3 weeks before, and the groom was from Hawaii, and they brought orchids from Hawaii. And they asked me at Minnesota Zen Center, I was just new there, but they knew I wanted to write. So they said, why don't you go interview Katagiri for the newsletter? So I said, okay. And I was late, and I couldn't find the place, and I couldn't park. And so I was late, and I came zooming in, and I ripped around the corner to the kitchen, and there he was, watering an orchid. And first of all, the orchid was still completely alive, and he was totally present. And I just pointed and I said, that orchid, it was 3 weeks ago. And he turned and he said, if you take care of something, it lasts a long time. Mm. And that was my true meeting with him. Mm. And that was it. I just like, oh, and I saw his presence, and, I wish I had something like that. Now, things like that don't happen now. And I feel like my students and stuff, they never experience things like that and would never, give their life the way we did. Mm. It's unheard of now. I mean, that was my life.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were there 12 years. What year did you come?
Did I come where? Oh, to Minnesota?
Yeah.
Oh, 1978.
78. 90.
Yeah.
And did he die in 90 or 91?
He died in 1990. No, 90. March 1st, 1990.
Right.
And he's been dead 31 years. This March 1st will be 32. And I was shocked on his 30th memorial. No one in Minnesota, none of the Zen centers did anything. And it broke my heart. And it haunted me. You mean all that effort and he could be forgotten? And I guess that's what happens. You know, everyone gets forgotten eventually. That's why it's so amazing how you've kept Suzuki so alive.
Well, you know, I don't pay attention to important dates, though.
Uh-huh.
You know, Joanne Fordham at Shambhala got hold of me. Not at Shambhala, at Chronicles of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, Chronicles of CTR. I've been in touch with them through the years because we do similar sorts of things. And she said, what are you planning to do for Suzuki Roshi's the 50th anniversary of his death? And I said, no, I wasn't planning on doing anything. You know, Zen Center does stuff like that. But you want me to do something, I'll do it. So I've got to make her.
Zen Center didn't do anything with Katagiri. That's what was upsetting to me.
Yeah.
Not Minnesota Zen Center. No Zen Center in Minnesota did anything.
Well, I don't think he's forgotten, though. I don't think.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like certainly a center should honor him. The 30th is a big deal.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if I were at a center, I would do that. I'm just sort of at large.
Yeah. Well, you've certainly done a lot of work to keep Suzuki alive.
Yeah. I post a lecture excerpt 6 days a week. There's and an associate who's been working with me, I don't know, 10, 12 years, Peter Ford. He puts up a Instagram one with a nice photo every day.
David, did you know that I did put out a book of Catherine Thanis's talks?
Oh, really?
Did you know that?
Well, I probably did know.
Died.
I forget things. I'm sure I knew. I probably got it listed.
Her student.
Go on.
David, what's his name? Bill Anelli and I worked on it for 3 years.
Oh.
And of her lectures. And I was disappointed because San Francisco Zen Center didn't even seem very interested in it.
Oh, they don't mention my book.
They don't?
No. They don't. They didn't mention when the Zen is Right Now came out. I did a brief history of Tassajara. It came out 2 years ago. They bought a bunch of them and they have them to sell, but they didn't mention it to their membership. They probably won't mention the audiobook. That's normal. Institutions, everybody's got their own agenda and their own, priorities and their own budgets, and things other people are doing just aren't important. They don't have time to think about it.
Well, you have a good attitude. You have a good understanding about that.
Oh, I've experienced that the entire time. You know who really tried to do something about that was Steve Stuckey when he became abbot. He got hold of me immediately and said, Zen Center should support you. And this is really important because I've been sharing all the archival work I was doing since 1993 with him. We were fairly close. And he just lived a block away when I started it. And I said, Steve, that's not going to work. It's better I'm just independent. But we tried it for 6 months, and then he agreed with me. He was shocked at how much opposition there was. He could not get support from the officers. He had to form a thing with the board. And even that, though, it's just natural. An institution, it sort of started, closing in on me, and I had to write a report every week. And
Oh my God.
Start telling me what I should be doing and setting goals. And it's really better to be independent. And then everybody's your friend. And but I've been, I was a company man with Zen Center for 10 years. And, I can remember back things I should have paid attention to or whatever, but I was too busy.
Yeah. You have a good attitude about it, a good understanding of it.
Yeah.
I'm still shocked.
Oh, look, it's given me a career. Actually, Zen Center was negligent of the whole archive of everything. Now, I had to fight to get what I just because of my seniority and the fact that I'm a Suzuki disciple really helped. And now they're really into it. But that's not because of Zen Center. It's because of two people, Charlie Wilson, with Shundo, David Hay, with Engaged Wisdom, and Susan O'Connell, who's really the most powerful administrator in Zen Center in the last 15 years. And she got a retirement village going that is just multi-million dollars, just like way beyond anything anybody could imagine. And it's for Zen Center people, who want to retire in a retirement community.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. Not now, but at some point, it might be a good place to retire to.
Yeah, I know. I just will avoid it as much as I possibly can.
We don't want to grow old.
Well, I don't want to be with people my age. I'm with all sorts of people here. And of course, you can retire here for a fraction of what you can retire for in America.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
At some point, I might be loony.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
How old are you, David?
76.
How old? 76. I'm 74.
You're 74, right. Yeah, I know that used to be old, remember?
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, I'm going to feature your Catherine Thanis book.
I would really like that.
And I'm going to catch up on this because I've been subject to the same thing. I'm so overwhelmed with all the things I'm doing. It's like that's all I do. The only thing I read is stuff. I don't read any news now. It's science. I read science and environment news. And the lead song on the album I just released, and the name of the album is "On the Way to Venus." That's what we're turning the Earth into 800 degrees because.
Yeah. David, I love music and songs. Is there a way I could listen to it, or?
Yeah, I'll send you.
How do you get the?
Well.
You'll send me a link.
Yeah, I made a page for the band with links. You can just write Bali Yuga on the Way to Venus, YouTube, Spotify.
Can you just send me a link?
Yeah.
David, I hate the internet. If you send me a link.
Yeah.
Can you send me a link?
I'll send you a link to the page for the band. You can see us all, and it has the links there. So back to the subject at hand. So are there any other highlights in your 12 years with Katagiri?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, there were so many. the last session I sat with him, and I think it was the last session he did before he got sick, was on the Zen land, which was on the, I think it was Hokioji.
Yeah,
I get
right.
the names mixed up. Hokioji. And it was near New Albany, Iowa. Yeah. And at the very end, he never did this before, but he said, well, are there any questions about anything? And I remember I raised my hand and I said, Roshi, if it was World War II and we were in Germany, what should we do? And he said, I have no prescription. I can't tell you. And then he paused and he said, that's why I ask you to sit, because maybe something fresh will come up. And then he said, the problem was nobody stopped him, meaning Hitler.
Yeah.
They said nobody stopped him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was so potent.
Yeah.
He was wonderful. He was my great teacher.
Yeah.
And, I went crazy when he died. It broke my heart.
Oh.
I was not ready for him to die.
Oh.
I deeply loved him.
Yeah. He was one of my teachers too.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, he was only 62. And you realize now how young that was.
Yeah.
And also, I realized his effort. Oh, my God. In Minnesota, it was like the Lutheran church sitting zazen. And David, when I say cold, beyond, some days it was 60 below.
No.
You could not go. Yes, David, 60 below. And if any part of your skin was exposed, it would freeze on contact.
Wow.
I mean, it was, yeah. And so it was so here he was stuck in this freezing cold, all white people. There were no Japanese in the whole state. There were hardly, there was one Italian restaurant downtown and it served spaghetti and meatballs. And,
wow.
I couldn't believe I was there either. But, he was so available. And, I felt very lucky. You could call him. I could call him up and say, can I come see you? He said, yeah, come on over now. He was just sitting there studying all the time. But it was tough. He was naive. When you're a foreigner, you don't know. He was an immigrant. He didn't know what Minnesota was like or the Midwest. He thought it would be, where the real Americans are.
Yeah.
And that's what he wanted to do. He was sick of the hippies.
Well, what I think he was most sick of and got away from was the Soto Zen hierarchy in Japan. He really didn't want anything to do with that.
And yet, I think in the end, he wanted their approval.
Yeah, that's true. That's hard not to want that. And there were some who he, like Narasaki, who he got along with and liked.
Yeah. Do you know that when I was in Japan in 2012, Harada Roshi came looking for me. He read Writing Down the Bones in Japanese.
Which Harada?
Katagiri was not the one, not the famous. Oh, geez. He's in Takayama.
Oh, the one in Takayama. Oh, my God. I can't remember his other name. All right. Go on.
He was best friends with Katagiri.
Yeah.
And he was blown out. to see Katagiri in a book. And he said, because Katagiri is so unknown in Japan, but he said Katagiri was like Bodhidharma, brought Zen to another world. It was very touching. And all of that is in my book, in my new book, 3 Simple Lines.
I'm going to read it today. And
good. I think you'll like it.
Yeah. I've got to get out of my cocoon. Yeah. So after Katagiri died, what happened to you?
Well, I moved to New Mexico, to Taos, where I was before. And I wrote, I just kept writing. I built a beer can and tire house on a mesa in Taos.
Oh, yeah.
So I was completely off the grid. And I lived there for about 20 years. And I taught a lot. I traveled all over the country. And I kept writing books. I was like a monk, but actively. But I was very dedicated.
I remember you'd come stay with Yvonne, because I had a place at Yvonne's.
Yeah, when Katagiri died, as he was dying, I met Yvonne because she got Dharma transmission. And I was in Minnesota and I was cooking for the ceremony. And I met Yvonne, and Bones had just come out. And so Yvonne asked me to come and teach with her. I'd never been to Green Gulch or anything. And that's when I met Wendy Johnson, too.
I remember when you came. What year was that? 90?
It must have been 1990 or 91.
Oh, well, I wasn't there then. But I remember you coming. So, not the first time. Yeah. Yvonne had a very high opinion of you. She said, she said you were to her like a Dharma era of Katagiri, and she would even say that you should be considered a Dharma era for Zen Center too. So anyway, I just remember that. And
that's nice, because I didn't get Dharma transmission with Katagiri, but I feel like I have it anyway. Yeah.
It's that Dharma transmission, all that stuff, it doesn't mean, to me, it doesn't matter. I'm not against doing it and having it. I think it's important, but, it's not necessary. It's like one possible form. It's an important form, but it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Did you know
the institution puts a lot on it?
Yeah, it's institutionally important, and people can use it to help their careers.
I'm afraid so.
Were you acquainted with Robert Pirsig when he was around?
Yes, I knew Robert Pirsig, and I remember Chris Pirsig used to study with us, and I knew Ted Pirsig quite well. And when Chris Pirsig was murdered, it was during Rohatsu Sesshin, I think, and Katagiri gave a piercing talk. He said, I'll never forget it. Let me remember. He said, human beings have an idea they're very fond of, that you die in old age, but you don't know when your death will come. Chris Pirsig's death has come now. And that was the end of the talk. And and Nancy, his mother, was sitting there in the sesshin.
Piercing's next wife, Wendy, works with us at Cuke Archives. She's working on Tassara stories with me, and she's done a lot of many light edits of Suzuki lectures.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, she's really good.
Persig has died, right? He died.
Oh, he died years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was somewhat in touch with him, but more with her. And
he wrote a beautiful blurb for me for Writing Down the Bones.
Yeah.
And also for Long Quiet Highway.
Yeah. Yeah. He was very helpful with my books too. I was somewhat involved with the family around.
Where is Ted now? Do you know
Ted's
where
in
Ted
Hawaii.
Is? He's still in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And what about Nancy? Nancy, is she still alive?
I think she's still alive. I don't think she's doing real well.
She's in Florida.
Huh?
Yeah, she's in Florida in an old in a home for seniors or something.
Yeah, I get the impression that maybe she has dementia, but I don't know. From what I've heard.
I think she's probably quite old by now. Yeah.
I have a whole section on Cuke.com or a page on Chris Piercing, and the funeral, and I've written many songs, and the longest song of all of them is I wrote after his funeral. And
it was just terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, and that the book was it was such an American book. So many people were in love with that book, and then for Chris to die, be killed, murdered.
Yeah. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance sold over 5 million copies, still selling.
Yeah.
And it's not about Zen.
Yeah, I know.
It's like a survey.
I
Go on.
Yeah, I know. I meet a lot of people who have it, but I don't know anyone who's read it. I always say, "Have you read it?" And they all say, "Well, I haven't gotten around to it yet."
Oh, I read it. It's interesting because it's like a survey of Western philosophy. Which I can never keep in mind.
Do you know that he wrote it? He would go back to his job in the middle of the night in the office and write it there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because he had a job doing some kind of writing, technical writing.
Uh-huh.
But he'd wake up, he'd go to bed early, and then wake up in the middle of the night and go to the office and work on the book. Well,
it certainly struck a nerve.
Boy, did it. Yeah.
That's got a great title, too.
The title alone would strike a nerve. It was just great.
Yeah. Well, so there you are in Port Townsend, and sometimes you're going to go back to Santa Fe in a while?
Yeah, I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back and forth.
Yeah.
Like when the bad allergy season, I'll come back here.
Yeah. Well.
It's completely opposite from New Mexico. It's at sea level. It's raining. It's, it's gray. I need a little break. I've been in New Mexico a long time.
Yeah. It's not as gray as Seattle, is what I remember.
Yes, it isn't. But it's pretty gray. It's pretty gray.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like the gray. See, I'm from New Mexico. I'm sick of the sun. So I love the gray.
Yeah. I do too. But, I lived in Bolinas and Muir Beach for so many years. And Bolinas, I think, is the cloudiest place in the Bay Area. And
oh, really?
Yeah. And
Maybe
I always
I should
loved
move
it.
there.
I was writing a lot of music then, a lot of songs. And the cloud, when it was really cloudy, or it would be so cloudy. I mean, it would be like fog, right? It's not cloud, it's fog. It made me feel really cozy, and I could work better.
Yeah, no, I work a lot better when it's gray.
Yeah, me too.
When it's sunny out, I think I should be outside playing, like when I was a little girl.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I love rainy season here. It's just starting now, and I always work better if it's raining.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
I do too.
Well,
David, it was really nice to talk to you.
It's wonderful.
Okay, David, it was wonderful to talk to you.
Yeah, it was great talking with you. And I wish you a lot of mojo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No one's ever wished me that. Thank you, David.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
So thank you very much, Natalie Goldberg. That was great. You got a great attitude. You're fun to talk with. Gee, I already want to talk with you again. So I'll pin that up there in the old thinker, and maybe one day we'll get back to you. I really read it, that new book, 3 Simple Lines. Very cool. Yeah, get that one and then work backwards. So this has been a Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sonora with Doghead Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.